Okay, let's talk shop.
Today is Tuesday, November 11th, and welcome to Positively Sloped. We're doing something new this week where we're doing an Elite 8 pick, or say topic pick, of what we think are on an off week, which we typically have every other week. We have an off week, and when we don't do the podcast normally, we're going to do an Elite 8, say, grouping of important topics, important themes that we want to bring to you, because Jake can't keep his mouth shut on these off weeks. He gets so scared and so upset. I actually like the time off, but we're going to go through 8 topics, some maybe a little more verbose, some maybe quick, that we think, though, are essential to know as we go through the week here and see how things shake out. So as you know, my co-host, my wind beneath my wings,
Wow.
And the guy that's growing a mustache now too since this morning, Jake Bauer is joining me. And so Jake, let's get right into it.
Yeah.
The Elite 8 topics, Elite 8 topics, which are reference to our favorite sport, water polo or basketball. Let's start with the biggest one of the week. The government shutdown. Can you believe the government is back to work now after all these days, after all these weeks of us being alone and on our own? Now the government's back in work, at least as far as the vote is coming, and it looks like we have the votes to make it happen. What's your thoughts?
I think this is a substantial improvement and progression. Finally, right? A couple nights ago, Sunday night, we had Congress pass a bill to move it to the House of Representatives. We had 7 Democrats move across the aisle, 7 of the more moderate Dems move across the aisle and say, all right, let's get the show back on the road here. So it's at the House of Representatives. We'll see later this week, Thursday or so, when the House of Representatives gets the vote. But I am hopeful that this will be the end of the government shutdown. I mean, this weekend.
Because you miss the government? I mean, what's the deal?
I don't miss the government, dude, but airports have been insane. I mean, Sunday had 1,000 flights canceled. Monday had 2,000 flights canceled. I think the average delay time, and there was some weather as we talked about, but the average delay time on Sunday was 3.5 hours. I saw Newark had a flight that was the 87th flight in line to take off. So
that's pretty good.
It's pretty
it's a lot
insane.
of time to kill,
and I
but
think
that's
for the sake of travel and for the sake, we've got some coworkers that couldn't make it in. So for the sake of travel and for the sake of the government employees that have been on furlough, I think this is finally a huge breakthrough, and hopefully we get a deal done on Thursday.
I'm glad the furlough folks will get paid. I'm glad that folks who are still working that aren't getting paid will get paid. Hopefully get some back pay too. The airport thing, listen, airport travel has been nuts pretty much this whole year anyway, shut down or not. And so I'm kind of just against it as far as like, I don't know if the shutdown really hurt things that much. I think it was a red herring. And the fact that, the airports are a lot busier these days is more of a sign of like economic strength than anything. And also the fact that you like to go to the airports to eat dinner and lunch and stuff like that. So I'm sure you've been probably upset more than usual because you can't go there and get your quick fast food or your macaroni grill or whatever's there that you like, or your Auntie Anne's pretzels.
The Auntie Anne's is
very good.
The major airports are missing bowling alleys. I mean, I noticed that you stuck your 2023 bowling championship right in the middle of the desk for this shoot. It's nice to see what a chief investment officer's office looks like. Thanks for welcoming us into your home today.
Well, this isn't my office, but it looks like it could be one of these days when I grow up. Speaking of growing up and speaking of growing, let's talk about another topic in the Elite 8 selection for today. Earnings season. Growing again. Let's say relatively 3/4 of the way through earnings season here. We got a lot of the S&P companies reported, a lot of the NASDAQ companies as well, a few on the back end here, NVIDIA being one, AMD another, coming up very shortly AMD-wise. What do you think about earnings season so far, Jake? Another, say, banger, if you will, of an earnings season where we've got double-digit earnings growth. We've got great outlooks. Some, though, I will say, as a little kind of caveat, little fly in the soup here, some, though, the reaction to some of these companies has not been as good as you think because maybe these companies are overdone already.
Little fly in the ointment, if you will. Yeah, I know, but it is ointment. I think earnings season, another strong earnings season, as you mentioned. It started off with the big banks almost about a month ago at this point, with the big banks coming in strong across most of their product lines. We saw it come through in tech, some weakness, some wavering on some of the AI spend in some of the companies, Meta to be
charge off, some simple charge off that they said too much about.
I think it's a very strong signal for the economy. When we talk about there's macro data, and then there's business and business consumer. We saw a few days ago we had a report that came out that consumer confidence is at an all-time low, or at a low in this cycle. That doesn't align to me with where we've seen earnings and how strong these companies are in the spend and how the consumer and the top line consumer continues to spend. But I still feel like we're in a good place for the economy. I'm excited for what Q4 is going to hold and what we're going to see in early of next year.
Well, Q4 is half over, so you're going to miss half of that if you haven't already paid attention. But I'll tell you this much: the consumer spending numbers make no sense. Because you go out around the world, you go out around our place in Chicago, downtown, even when it was pouring snow earlier this week, it's like people are out spending, people are out doing stuff, there's long lines, etc. So I don't believe that. a wink about the consumer spending numbers. But I'll tell you what I don't believe about numbers too. Third topic, bing, is the Elon Musk pay package.
Yeah.
You don't talk about numbers. I mean, you sit down and you think about these topics. You're like, all right, what do you want to talk about? I was like, okay, let's talk about the $1 billion Elon Musk pay package. And Jake being such a good co-host, the Ed McMahon to my Johnny Carson, if you will, says, no, you idiot, it's billion, not trillion, not billion, trillion, if you can even say it right on the pod. And he's like, looking at me strangely, and I'm like, oh my God, there's $1 trillion. If he hits these benchmarks, if he hits these bogey numbers, if the company, Tesla itself, can get some accolades or some, let's say targets hit, $1 trillion pay package, man. Thoughts out of the gate on them? Jealous, I guess.
Yeah, 100% jealous. I mean, I read about it last week, and I think the obvious answer is if he gets there, it's worth it. I mean, the first target that he's got to hit, and first and foremost for Tesla shareholders and investors, is the company's got to hit $8.5 trillion market cap. Okay, it's at 1.3.
That'd be the number one all-time company. Yep.
It'd be the number one all-time company. He's got 10 years to do this, so you've basically got a 7.5x over the 10-year period. If you're a Tesla investor, or if you're a Tesla speculative investor,
you're pretty damn happy about that.
Why wouldn't you be like, yeah, I'll ride that ride? And you know, one of the stipulations on that is it's got to hold an $8.5 trillion market cap for 30 days. So that's going to kind of dissuade some people that are going to try to play a game in 2034 or 2035 when the number gets up there. And we've seen price appreciation from Tesla.
They doesn't get anything though.
And then there's also, you need that market cap. What was smart, what they did was you need the stock price to align with actual revenues. And so they've got stipulations for humanoid sales, for robo taxis, for Tesla sales,
space stations.
My thought is if it gets there, it's worth it. And so I'm bullish on Tesla because of this deal.
I think he's worth every penny. The problem I have with Tesla though as a stock is you're expecting Tesla to trade like a normal stock, which it does not do. It hasn't followed typical earnings patterns, hasn't followed typical revenue patterns either. It hasn't followed typical debt structuring when it comes to the stock or the company doing that stuff as usual companies do. So there's that little departure. Another thing, though, you're right about one comment, or many of them, I guess, so far today, is that Musk is worth every penny.
Yeah.
And he's also worth every penny because he and I share a birthday, which is June 28th, which I will take gifts for anytime throughout the year, but especially think of me in late June, and definitely think about Elon Musk because he may be broke by then. Who knows? And he may need some help getting this $1 trillion pay package, which, Elon, we congratulate you on getting that at least voted for and through the shareholders.
Yeah.
You know, speaking of going through something, there's some a holiday coming up, Jake, that I like to go through. I struggle to go through it, rather, and a lot of people like to go through it for some reason because they just get so excited and they get so fanciful about all these great family memories, of which maybe I just don't have any. Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving coming up, and I know how much you don't like to eat at Thanksgiving. You look great these days. I'm sure you've looked much better before. But the reality is, how about these Thanksgiving prices that have come out? Whether it's the Walmart's making comments about it, consumer groups, even folks that you talk to on the street these days talk about how much they're enjoying the Thanksgiving shopping because most of the prices for most of the goods that are out there that you typically eat on Thanksgiving, I think, are down year over year. And so we're actually getting that kind of, let's say, disinflation talk going again because of the fact that other than maybe turkeys, which we'll talk about in a second, most of the other accoutrements en français is a down pattern or a downshift in price.
I want to hit I don't care.
Okay. I don't know what that is there.
Part of the Elite Eight.
You just smashed.
I'd like to let you know I don't care about these headlines. This is a headline I'm gonna opt out on. I'm gonna skip because every year we do this thing. You're right with Thanksgiving, which I love Thanksgiving, but we talk about prices. We talk about prices, and like last year, and you did put a caveat in turkey, so this made completely negate this comment. But last year we had the aviary flu running crazy, so prices were up, and even though it's just for turkeys, that does flow through to the rest of Thanksgiving prices and the goods that you buy for Thanksgiving. So this is something we do every single year. The price goes up, the price goes down, it increases, it decreases. I don't care. Skip.
Okay,
next.
fine. Speaking of birds, speaking of birds and a couple of turkeys, that's the two of us. I will make a comment though, really quick. I was speaking at an event recently in the last few weeks. I don't want to point out somebody that I'd never protect the innocent, but let's just do it.
This was a great event.
It was a great event, but she also made a comment about how much turkeys are more this year versus turkeys in the last few years, and alluded it or attributed it to the tariffs. And I said, there's nothing more than I like than Chinese turkey these days, especially turkey with a Chinese flavoring. So there you go. That's why the turkeys might be up in your neck of the woods, because all of a sudden we're like really excited to get Chinese turkeys into the US of A. And I don't know exactly anybody who would on their right mind eat a Chinese turkey, but if you do, let us know. Quickly about something else then, letting people know. NFL. We're just off a great NFL weekend again, and we love the NFL. The NFL's been so good. It's been so entertaining. In fact, we're running into the Bears this weekend. My Vikings are. I'm going to be at the game, screaming my head off and probably getting beaten up. What about the NFL this weekend, Jake, that would be your key takeaway? Don't just harp on the Bears. We know the Bears won some game against the stinky team that's the Giants. Jackson Dart wasn't even in the game. The Giants blew another one, basically, is what happened, just like they did in Denver and beforehand. What do you think about the NFL? Just kind of give us a quick run through of this week's action and players and what kind of was achieved.
Yeah, I won't skip this topic. Never will. Yeah, for sure. The Bears won. That was awesome. Great comeback. I'll say less that.
Okay.
I had 3 big takeaways for contenders. The Lions, obvious bounce back spot. They beat the crap out of the Commanders.
Revenge, right? Revenge on the Commanders versus last year. Jay Daniels.
That offense was completely humming. The Commanders, on the flip side, though, have no defense.
It's weird. And
Second takeaway I had, the Seahawks could win a Super Bowl. I really, really believe that. I do think that was probably, and I said this to you earlier, probably one of the worst QB performances I've ever seen from a team that scored 45 with Sam Darnold. He had 3 or 4 turnovers.
Sam does that once in a while.
But, like, the defensive line, I mean, DeMarcus Lawrence had 2 touchdowns. That was sick. Jackson Smith and Jigba still had a huge day. Yeah. They were running the ball down the throat of the Cardinals. Yeah. Cardinals are like in a weird, frisky spot. Yeah. I think the Seahawks could win a Super Bowl. And then my third takeaway was the Rams are awesome. I mean, the Rams killed the 49ers. It ended up being a closer game than it really was the entire game. But Stafford, first QB ever with 3 straight games, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. The defense can manage enough to support that offense. The Rams, the Seahawks, 2 huge Super Bowl contenders.
Both, I think, under double-digit odds to win the Super Bowl, which kind of stinks because we missed that one earlier on. I agree on the Seahawks. Darnold does that by habit, by the way. I mean, he can just stink up the stat sheet, but bring the team to win. I mean, I dealt with that all last year. Actually, had better numbers than actually you're talking about right now. But also, think about this, too. I mean, it's like, this is back to what we said earlier on, which is like there's going to be a really exciting ending of the season, not only as we approach the playoffs, but just the fact there's so much kind of parity and teams are going up and down. The one thing that you mentioned, though, I got to call you to the carpet on here or call you to the AstroTurf, is the Cardinals. I mean, we were just singing the praises about the Cardinals and how they just smoked the Cowboys. Now, Jacoby Brissett, I think it was you, or maybe it was the AI version of you, talked about how great Jacoby Brissett was, how bad Kyler Murray is, and he's getting sent to the bench. Brissett looks like he had not even played a high school snap. When it was like a Sunday a couple days ago. So the point being is that if you're not watching the NFL, you should. Yep. And if you really want to see some excitement and see some fellas throw it out on the line and really get down and dirty and deep and get in there when it comes to these playoff runs, because we're halfway through the season, my son.
Oh, yeah, we are.
This is going to be over soon. Yep. I mean, we're going to be approaching December here, and sadly, it's going to be playoffs, and then we're going to be Super Bowl, and it's going to be like, this thing went by in a flash. So just like the flash that the NFL is going to be a flash and go check out one of those games. And in fact, follow me to the Vikings game as long as you're going to cheer for the Vikings because they're going to beat the stink out of the Bears.
Yeah, McCarthy looks pretty bad.
He looks awesome.
That'll be the last takeaway. He said he likes to channel 9 when he gets out there, and he had. I mean, they had so many chances to win that game yesterday.
They had 9 chances actually to win it, ironically.
And he was erratic. I think Jefferson had like 15 targets when really 5 were actually on him. It was a tough game by McCarthy.
But whatever. We don't need to harp on how bad McCarthy is. It's his first year, and he went to Michigan, so that's all you can say. Let's stay in the sporting events, though, too, because we like the sports. I think that's stuff that we don't know very much about. How about this? You know, I'm sitting on the couch over the weekend, and I'm just like scrolling through the channels, whatever, trying to fall asleep in the middle of the day. And it's like, there's a scandal out now in baseball.
Yeah.
And it's not Shohei Ohtani being a robot and all that stuff.
Nope.
It's these 2 Cleveland Indians pitchers that were basically Guardians pitchers. Yeah, excuse me. Where I grew up near Cleveland, so please, keep the comments down. These 2 Guardians pitchers were basically helping some bettors pick the pitches that these guys were throwing so that they could either bet on a walk for the batter or pick on what the next pitch was going to be, a ball or a strike. Coordinating it through, some lines of communication, some decent dollars. We were talking 6 figures, I think, was one case. What? 10 figures? What?
You want me to tell you?
How much?
Emmanuel Clase, who is the best closer in the league and making tens of millions
No,
of
not
dollars a year,
but the better one.
Is a $12,000 bribe that he took.
That's pretty offsetting.
That's like a pitch. For
but
him.
no, I'm saying, okay, fine. He took a $12,000 bribe. The guy that was bribing him
sure.
did win like $750K or something.
Okay.
The point being, that might have been worth it on a given day. Maybe with the dollar hurting so much it isn't as far as currency. The reality, though, to me is that, why are these guys doing this? Why do we have the issues with Chauncey Billups and his guys? Why do we have these issues with I mean, do you want to talk about Shohei Ohtani? You think he was innocent on that betting? Yeah, and then the guy all of a sudden didn't know what was going on with his bank account. If they're sending wires out for millions of dollars to a betting site, sure. And there were games that Shohei was playing. Oops, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. And then also, I sent the wrong routing number, I guess, the wrong bank account number, and that's how that money left Shohei's account. But then these 2 guys are left over from all that stuff. They've seen people get caught, and there's been more of these guys. Yep. I mean, there's been referees, there's been all those guys who've been caught, and they get caught red-handed. They get taken to prison. They get fined. I mean, it's over for you. And these two guys are coordinating pitching strokes effectively for some guy that, to your point, bribes them $12K to do this. And these guys basically lose their career. They're going to lose their freedom, and they're going to lose every dollar they pretty much ever made.
Yeah,
that sounds like a fair bet to make.
I think it's a huge issue, obviously. I mean,
what's doing that though? Who's making these guys?
So that part of it is not like these bribes, like you said, have been around for a long time. I mean, MJ, whatever happened there, you had the NBA ref.
MJ right here, by the way.
I can't remember his name. The NBA ref is still a black guy in the NBA. Like we've had the mob, right, which I thought was figurative, is apparently still around with La Cosa Nostra, but the mob, gangs, whoever, bribing these guys or holding their life in their hands and saying, do this or do this. It's a huge issue. I mean, Emmanuel Classe, again, this guy's making tens of millions of dollars a year. He took a $12,000 bribe. What I will say about the pitching is the issue with the pitching was they were being bribed to throw a ball in the first pitch of the inning. So that bet would never have been available 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. That's a problem. Telling Terry Rozier to fake an injury and go down so you can bet on the props. Dude, there's a whole Adam Sandler movie about that with Kevin Garnett. Like, that's been around for decades and decades. I don't see how it gets better. It's like the instant betting that these approved sports books have brought. That certainly the exposure is bigger. I don't know how you get rid of it. But
it just seems weird though. Well, here's the thing.
It's going to completely taint
the
product.
Was Uncut Gems the movie you're talking about? Okay, that was a scary movie, actually, believe it or not, because it's just this. The criminology in the betting that Sandler goes through as a very good actor is great. But here's the weird thing. My question is, why do these pitchers, and whoever it is, or Shohei, whoever it is, and Tim Donahue, see, that's the thing. It must be. Tim Donahue was the referee, by the way, that you're talking about, that basically threw games for his own account. I mean, Pete Rose, near where I grew up, Pete would bet on the games that he would play in.
The Black Sox? I mean, that was
the Black Sox, a huge black eye. I mean, so I'm just wondering nowadays, though, given that you're going to get caught. I mean, there's just no way this thing's going to slip by the officials or slip by the legislatures or whoever it is, legislators, or anybody that really notices this. I just don't see what the rush is. I mean, the rush is basically a rush for 10 seconds from when the ball leaves your hand to where it gets to the backstop. Because one of the balls this guy threw, it was like, it basically threw it to the backstop. I mean, you're talking about a Charlie Sheen pitch in Major League, which was also the Cleveland Guardians, the Indians. Lastly, how about this weird thing about Cleveland? No, one more thing. Doug Gabriel, the quarterback from Dylan Gabriel. Yeah, Doug Gabriel was the player for the LA Raiders back in the day. I don't think
you see many 23-year-old Doug.
At least I didn't say Peter Gabriel, who used to sing, Sledgehammer. The point is, Dylan Gabriel, did you see the game he played yesterday by chance?
Didn't see any of the Jets-Browns.
Somebody just go look up some of the lowlights that Dylan Gabriel had last night, or not, 3 nights ago. Was it a Sunday, so a couple days ago. The guy threw so many errant passes, took so many weird sacks, looked like he was afraid of the ball, looked like you'd never been on a football field before. Hey, you got to watch some of these performances because it's hard to be that bad. I haven't seen somebody play sports that bad since I saw Jake go out there and throw a baseball.
Thank you.
We're going to end up, that was actually a 7th topic, by the way. So we're going to end the Elite 8 topics with the following. What's the, let's say, upcoming week? We're pretty much halfway through the week now, Jake. I can't believe it. It's already just been so fast, man. I mean, just spending time with you is so amazing. It really slows down the time. What's the major takeaway now that we got a week going where we have the shutdown going on and stuff? Like, give us like one economic event or one maybe stock moving event that might be great for the market or bad as far as a great influencer one way or another as far as what comes out in the next few days.
I'm looking forward to Monday or Tuesday of next week when we get the first report on some economic data. I don't know what's coming first, whether it's jobless reports or GDP, unemployment, whatever it may be. That's going to be, I think, pretty telling for the market because we've gone now almost, the shutdown's been 42, 43 days, it started mid-month. It started October 1st. So we haven't had data back to September. So we're almost at a month and a half, 2 months of no data. It's been 50 or so days. I think there's going to be, there hopefully isn't a lot of shock. I mean, we got private sector data on jobs. They did not look good
ADP data
last week, ADP data. So we'll see what the public sector looks like, certainly with a lot of layoffs that we've heard about. So I'm looking at whatever the first economic output is by the government when we reopen next week. That'll be pretty telling for the market, I think, for the next month as we lead up to the last Fed meeting of the year in December, because ultimately what the Fed does may shake some markets or we may just continue down the path of cutting, which I think we both don't want to happen. So
you don't want that to happen now. Wow. Okay. Thanks for coming to the light side there. I'm going to tell you what it is, man. I think it's the AMD report. Because by the time this gets packaged and sent out, we're going to be right on top of that AMD report. And look, AMD is basically the last bastion next to NVIDIA, which is next. But right now, the last bastion of basically chip companies that's coming out in the next couple of weeks that's going to be significantly market moving because of the fact that they're going to be commenting a lot about some of the things that the companies already have been talking about, like a Meta, for example, you talked about that earlier, that have already come out and kind of, let's say, stubbed their toe on some of these outlooks and some of the comments that they made about current investment, current cost, and what the plans are to kind of rectify those situations when it's coming in to be a little bit more of an expensive undertaking than people thought and less return potentially. So I think AMD is a really big stock mover here in the next few days because, listen, a banger quarter, I'll use that word again, a banger quarter from AMD, both on current and future, is going to nail the stock market higher because the stock market is dying for something good other than just say this government shutdown news, because that's a flash of the pan. I mean, the government shutdown, being shut down, open, whatever. Any given day, the market's got the government is open or shut. You know, have they been working for us for the last 20 years or since you've been alive? I don't even know.
Yeah, on the government shutdown, I mean, it must be shut down longer because if you saw on Sunday at the Commanders-Lions game, which we talked about earlier, President Trump was in the booth, which I think whichever way you lean, I think it's actually cool that we have a president that's interested in sports. Like I couldn't believe last year when he went to the Super Bowl, he was the first sitting president ever. I get that you have a whole Secret Service thing to figure out, and there's a ton of taxpayer dollars spent on it. We have worse issues than whether or not we spend $20 million on Secret Service. But what really bothered me was Jonathan Vilma. I don't know if you were watching that game, listening to the sound in that game. He tried to get the president twice on 6'7" jokes. Do you know what 6'7"
I didn't notice that, but know what
it is from the kids.
Yeah, I do know the 6'7" thing because I have a couple kids in teenage years.
He's like, how many touchdowns you score in your career? 6, 7? And Trump was like, I don't think I scored any.
Yeah, but I actually give Vilma credit for that because that actually went over my head, and actually delivery wasn't that bad. The funny part, too, to me was Trump was there because he wants the stadium to be named after him, and so he wants to be there and give everybody some pressure on that. So that's really what that was. If Vilma would have done the 6'7" thing and 6'7" his ability to maybe get the name of the stadium changed to, Trump Enterprises or whatever, that would have been great. So I like that move by Vilma. And I also liked joining you today for the Elite 8 topics that we chose in between the pod. So we have the pod every 2 weeks, which is like the full cycle. We're going to start doing, I think, depending on the reaction, these Elite 8 topics. We're going to try to make them short and sweet, which I'm sure they weren't today. Sorry about that, first run through. But we're going to do these off-week cycles, basically, the off-cycle weeks, where we're going to come to you at the same timing of the week, that Tuesday, Wednesday period, drop some Elite 8 topics on you and see if Jay could not hit the buzzer once or twice or 3 times like he did today, or at least maybe do some more research on the topics because you knew more than I did, and that's not acceptable. So, Jake, thanks for joining us today. Thank you for joining us for the Elite 8 topics for, as always, the Positively So podcast, and we'll see you live next week.
Nice strike today, Scott. Maybe next time you'll spare us a few topics.
I won't.
Kingsview Wealth Management is an investment advisor registered with the SEC. Registration does not constitute an endorsement of the firm by the SEC, nor does it indicate that Kingsview has attained a particular level of skill or ability. Information presented is for educational purposes only and does not intend to make an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any specific securities, investments, or investment strategies. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. All opinions expressed by the positively sloped participants are solely their opinions and do not reflect the opinions of Kingsview Wealth Management, its parent company, or any of its affiliates. You should not treat any opinion expressed on this podcast as a specific inducement to make a particular investment or follow a particular strategy, but only as an expression of an opinion. Such opinions are based upon information the positively sloped participants deem reliable. Kingsview Wealth Management serves as portfolio manager to separately managed account strategies and investment advisor to exchange-traded funds.
As of the date of this recording, those strategies and funds held positions in NVIDIA and Meta and did not hold positions in AMD, Tesla, Walmart, or ADP.